Thank you, Maureen and Hunter. We're making progress here. We're in the same room, masks off, both vaccinated, so I sense progress.
This is awesome, isn't it? To be together once again in this type of setting. Disappointing we can't be with the group that's being honored today, but this is the next best thing, you and I together in the same room.
To be honest, I was having issue with your Zoom at one time, so you have upgraded there.
Well, I have, yeah. You gave me some great advice. I got a new computer.
Talk about the time we've been through, what you've learned on the TV side. On the good side, I've learned that with maybe 3/4 of the station at home, we can still put on a newscast, which I never imagined would be possible. And Zoom is a weapon I think we're going to use in the future. Have you seen things in the pandemic from the good side that you're going to use in the future?
Well, I think, you just talk about recruiting. I know our coaches are anxious for recruiting to open back up on June the 1st, but I think there'll be some type of hybrid that exists in the recruiting process where coaches have figured out how to recruit virtually.
KK Robinson, yep, this is Coach. Paperwork in. Let's go, KK! Go Hogs!
And how to create some really unique videos and how to engage with young men and women through their cell phones, through their computers. And let's face it, that generation that's 15 to 18 years old, I mean, they depend on those cell phones. They communicate through those cell phones, so it's kind of natural to build a relationship with the prospective student athlete virtually through their phones. And so I think that is definitively one of the things that has come from this is our coaches have learned how to recruit differently. I mean, we've recruited an entire class for 19 different sports through virtual recruiting.
And you've been pretty good at setting the timeline for where we're going in this pandemic. And I remember months ago you said it's going to look more like normal come football season. If you can envision now, and I know you can't predict what's going to happen, what do you see as far as tailgating, masks, attendance at the first football game?
Yeah, and I'd like to use the word cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
We're cautiously optimistic that football season will return to a sense of normalcy for Razorback fans, where there'll be tailgating in and around the stadium area, that we'll have the Hog Walk out at Maple Street and Hogtown, and we'll have our band and we'll have our cheerleaders. And September 4th when we kick off against Rice, and then September 11th when we kick off against the Longhorns, that hopefully we'll have 70,000 plus fans here in Razorback Stadium, and that will be an incredibly exciting and energetic atmosphere for sure.
What kind of a gut punch has COVID-19 been, as far as, I know you lost big in attendance and obviously, and just the daily traffic from game day. What's that been like?
Well, I tell you, it's been made a lot easier by the success of our teams this year, and how our student athletes and how our coaches have taken what we call a confidence plan and managed through the COVID protocols and the COVID testing. And we've had just so much success across our sports. I mean, we've got 18 of our 19 sports programs that will go to NCAA postseason play or a bowl game, as our football team had been invited to a bowl game. We've won 6 SEC championships, a national championship, and that's made COVID a great deal more bearable than it would have been if we had not had that same level of success. And so a credit to our student athletes and our coaches for managing this the best way they could and making the best of a really challenging year and enjoying. It's made this year that much more enjoyable.
You talk about that. I haven't been to a game during the pandemic, and I probably enjoyed this sports year as much as any because of not only game day, but the anticipation of say, a Razorback tournament game, that game on a Saturday. For me, it's tweeting about the game or talking about the game, but just you find out how important sports is to the fabric of Arkansas, and especially in a pandemic, I think it was a great release for some folks.
Absolutely. I think back in July and August, when as a conference and as an industry we're having to make some very difficult decisions, and we're criticized for many of those decisions that we weren't putting the safety, health, and well-being of our student athletes at the forefront, but we were. And it was their mental aspect of that, and we had checked all the boxes about their safety, health, and well-being. And can you think about if we had not played sports this year, and what that has meant to people across the state of Arkansas, what it has meant to our student athletes. I even have ushers from Landmark Security that come up and just thank me on a regular basis. Thank you for having these events. You have no idea what this means for me to be able to pay my mortgage or my rent or put food on the table for my family. And so there's a number of people that have been positively impacted by what we have been able to accomplish this year by just having events with limited attendance.
The big question mark, and you probably have a little bit of an idea about how your season ticket sales are going for football, is I think you have 3 groups. You have one group that's probably going to get the stadium about 4 hours early because they just want to see people. You got another group that they may be, I don't know if I want to be that close to someone in a stadium. And you got a third group that said, I have my big screen TV, and that's been a problem in the past. I've watched games at home, I'm comfortable, so maybe I'm not going to go back to the games. How do you feel it's going to go over when we get back to somewhere?
Sure. We've had a phenomenal renewal season for football season tickets, and I mean, we're upwards of 90% renewal rate from 2019.
How's that compared to previously?
I mean, we are about ready to go ahead of where we were in 2019 as far as season ticket sales. And I know we'd had a couple of down years from that, but I think that's a great indicator that people are going to come back. And that's just the renewals. We really haven't gotten into the new season ticket sales cycle, which as we wrap up renewals and clean up what the renewal process was, it's very encouraging. I think Razorback fans are going to come back out. That's why I said our expectation is that we're going to have 70,000 fans here in Razorback Stadium when we play Texas, and that will be the largest crowd in several years coming out of this pandemic.
And personally, he looked great here coming out of the pandemic. I know you were on the Peloton or something. Give us an update on how you've worked your free time and goals you've set during this time.
Sure. I mean, I had to travel a lot here in the past week to SEC meetings and another business function I had out on the West Coast. And it's the first time Jennifer and I have really been apart from each other during this pandemic. And so it's been really neat for her and I to spend some time together that normally you don't get in this industry over the course of the past year. And with all three of my boys here now, Ryan on Sam Pittman's staff and Jake is a player here, and Brooks over at Fayetteville High School, and their girlfriends and their dogs, and it's made it for really a neat year. We've got a little cabin up on Beaver Lake. We've been able to spend some family time together, and I'm on my Peloton just about every day, so that is my release early in the morning to make sure I take care of myself.
Some advice: don't get a puppy. Jack the Ripper is taking over my life.
Jack the Ripper, that's your puppy, huh?
That's my Jack the Ripper, or Jack the Nipper, I should say. Hey, there's a lot of small businesses here today watching, and I know you're in a different element. You're running a huge business here, but what message would you have for the small businesses that are here today?
Well, first of all, congratulations on being honored today. And one of the things that has impressed me as I arrived in the state of Arkansas is the number of businesses, large and small, that Arkansans have built from the ground up, and just done a phenomenal job of building those businesses and building them the right way, ethically, above board, following the rules and business practices that are in place. And I'm sure the group that we're honoring today is no different. It's just an impressive to think about the number of businesses across this state that have been built from the ground up by Arkansans, just working hard, working together. And I congratulate everybody today that's being honored on their success and the success of their businesses.
Unfortunately, in college sports, it'd be nice if everyone followed the rules. And,
sure.
That's not happening because there's so much money at stake, and there's people want to win and they'll do anything to win. When you're running a business like this, you have high-paid coaches they've got to win to keep their jobs. How do you try to make sure they color within the lines?
Sure. Well, I think first thing you do is you hire people that value integrity, and that as you spend time with them and evaluate them and meet with them, that they understand what their expectation is. And then you have to set that expectation and hold them accountable. I mean, here's the fact of the matter is we all know right from wrong. Yeah. We all know the rules in college athletics, just like our honorees today know the rules in businesses. Yeah. And we may not agree with all the legislation and the rules and the bylaws that are in place, but they're in place for a reason. They're in place, and we need to follow them. And so we hold our staff accountable to following those guidelines. And I can tell you without reservation that of our 15 head coaches, I don't have any inkling at anything not above boards going on with our coaches. We have coaches that I think practice their craft at the highest level of integrity, and I think when somebody enters there's fear that may not want to do it the same way. That's not an option here at the University of Arkansas. I'm really proud of our coaches. I mean, we've gone multiple years now, probably 5 or 6 without a level 1 or level 2 NCAA violation. We do have some level 3 violations, but those are minor, and sometimes those are just because the rule book is so thick, it's impossible to know what every single one of them is. But I love the integrity by which we operate our department with.
They say with some athletic directors, you're as good as your last hire, and you've knocked it out of the park since you've been here. And they're interesting hires because Coach Muss was more of an NBA guy coaching college basketball, bit of a risk there. Sure. Jordan Weber, an Olympian, but had little experience to be a head coach, and Sam Pittman was a career, basically, position coach. And what do you look for outside of credentials when you're sitting down talking to a guy that you think he may be a good fit, or a woman?
Sure. I mean, I think that's one of the big things is, are you a good fit? I mean, Arkansas is a special place, and not everybody, however, is a great fit at the University of Arkansas. And I think you want to make sure that the coach you're hiring for the position is a great fit for your institution and the culture of your athletic department, your university, and in this case, our state, because we are the flagship institution across this state. I'll go back to that integrity piece. I mean, are they going to run their program at the highest level of integrity? Because that's very important to me. I know it's important to our chancellor, our president, and our board as well. I mean, obviously you talked about the credentials, and the other piece is, do they really want to be the head coach at the University of Arkansas? I think it's very important. Not that they want to be a head coach at the Power 5 level, or they want to be a head coach at the SEC, or they want to have a multi-million-dollar contract. Do they want to be the head coach at the University of Arkansas? And I think when you talk about, she often gets overlooked. Courtney Steinbach, our women's tennis coach, was my first kind of official head coaching hire here, and then Coach Pittman and Coach Weber and Coach Musselman. I mean, they all wanted to be here at the University of Arkansas. And one of the things I do with all of our coaches is I like to go meet them at their house. Went out to Reno to meet Coach Musselman, went to Athens to meet with Coach Pittman. It wasn't possible to meet Jordan at her house in Ucluelet, but we spent 3 hours here at a coffee shop talking. And I think that tells a lot about a person, how they interact with their family, with their spouse, about what type of person they are, because we want good people here leading our student athletes.
Your management style pretty much is provide what I can for the coach to have success and then support him to the very end. Accurate?
Absolutely. I mean, I try to, the cliche of I feel that I'm more of a servant leader, in that what my job is to provide direction for our department, and then from that direction empower our head coaches, our senior leadership team, our support staff to make decisions and to have success on their playing fields and in their respective venues and units within their department. I'm here to provide them the resources, provide them that roadmap, and obviously I'm here to hold them accountable as well. But we've got an organizational chart that goes from left to right. It doesn't go from the top down, because I feel like I work with everybody on our team. Nobody works for me as a director of athletic. We work together collaboratively to develop our goals, and every one of our staff members should feel empowered to make decisions. We don't make decisions on a yo-yo where they have to come up to me at my level and then go back down. Everybody can make decisions, and we use one criteria: is it in the best interest of our student athletes and their success? And if it is, then you can make that decision. It may end up being the wrong decision, but if you truly believe it's in the best interest of our student athletes and their success here at the University of Arkansas, you've made the right decision.
Talk about making decisions that aren't popular with the entire fan base. I look at playing Arkansas State. There's some people that they don't want to ever play them in football, especially. Yeah. And then Nolan Richardson Court. There's some people, important boosters, that will never forgive Nolan, and yet you forge forward with both those decisions.
Yeah, when I came in here, people said, well, what was your plan when you got to be the director of athletics at the University of Arkansas? And I had a 100-day plan, and that plan was really just to go out and meet people, various constituents, and ask the right questions. You
sat with Wally, me, and both at a basketball game.
Yeah, I did. And, ask the right questions and listen intently to those answers, and then build the plan from there. I thought it was important that Coach Richardson be honored with the naming of that court and the success that he had, and really he put the basketball program here at the University of Arkansas, following Coach Sutton, on that national landscape, winning that national championship. And then, as we got into this pandemic, we needed to schedule a little bit differently. We needed to give our coaches an opportunity to play teams that were within our footprint more, especially in those midweek games. And I think you've seen our baseball and our softball teams take full advantage of that this spring. I think Coach Van Horn's played every Division I school in the state in a midweek 2-game series. I think it's good for those institutions. It's good for us not to try to find schools outside of this footprint. And then the Arkansas State game, it was in the best interest of our football program. We needed to have all of our SEC games on campus.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal for us to play Missouri over in Little Rock, and I think a disadvantage for our program. Not that we don't view Little Rock as a home stadium because it's within our state, but it was a big deal to have that, and we needed to have a kind of a carrot for the folks there at War Memorial Stadium and in Little Rock, and that Arkansas State game was that carrot.
3.5 years you've been here. Time flies, especially when you're winning like
Sure.
you're winning here.
Yeah.
Any surprises about the state, the university, the job, when you look back that you really didn't fully understand when you took the job?
Absolutely. I mean, I did not fully understand the passion the people have across this state for this university and for their athletic programs and what it means to people across this state. I knew that there was not another Power 5 team in this state. I knew there's not major professional sports teams in this state, but I didn't truly understand. I don't know that you can until you come here and live it, what the passion is of Razorback fans for their Razorback athletic sports programs. And we're having so much success. This is one thing that disappoints me about this year, the success we're having, that more fans can enjoy this in person, because it would be a really special year in so many of our venues. And so that's the one thing that it's been a surprise to me, is just that overall passion. I came from the University of Houston, where we fell in line behind like 10 other entities in the city of Houston, but the professional teams and the other major college teams like Texas and Texas A&M and Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU, to come here and be the show and to experience the passion of our fans is incredible.
And my daughter asked me the other day, does he have to go to all the games? I think she saw a softball game. What's been the one sport? I know you're a basketball guy. Give me the one sport that's kind of surprised you where, hey, I've enjoyed watching this a little more than I thought I would.
Well, the one sport that surprised me is because I've never been at a school that is gymnastics, for sure.
Yeah.
And the excitement around gymnastics events, especially pre-pandemic, and the energy that Coach Weber created with her program on a Friday night in Barnhill Arena was really, really cool. But I don't have to go to all the events that I go to, but I think it's really important that our student athletes feel valued and appreciated for what they do and how hard they work at their craft. And what better way to show my appreciation for them and that they're valued than for their director of athletics to be at their events. And so if I'm in town and there's a home event, it doesn't matter what the sport is, I'm going to be there supporting our student athletes. If they advance to the postseason, I'm going to be there. It takes a lot of personal time to be able to do that, but I feel like that sets the tone for our department, and that all 19 sports programs and all 465 student athletes feel valued.
My memory's not that great, but I can't remember a time in Razorback athletics, and you've probably done some research, or your team has done some research. Have we ever gone through a period where all the teams have been, as a collective group, have been this successful?
I don't believe so. So, I mean, we have 19 sports programs, and as we head through the spring, we're projecting that 18 of those 19 sports programs will advance to postseason play, NCAA championship play, or a bowl game, is the case for our football team. The only one that didn't was our volleyball team, and the only reason they didn't is because the tournament was compressed from 64 to 48 teams, and they were in the last 4 teams out. And so if you have a normal year with a normal tournament, they're most likely in, and it's 19 of 19. So, we had a period where we had 16 sports playing. We had 14 of those 16 were ranked in the top 25. We've had 4 different teams hold the #1 spot in the country. We've won a national championship, 6 SEC championships now, with softball clinching a tie for the regular season title. And I haven't done the full research, but this is a historical year, and my hat goes off again to our student athletes and our coaches. They have done an amazing job navigating through the challenges of this pandemic.
All right, and I got some advice for you. Maureen Glisovic is our host today, right? If she ever calls on the phone and you see it on your caller ID, don't take the call.
Okay.
So if she's calling a big business or a business, it's bad news. She is our 7 on your side girl.
Okay.
So there's been some kind of complaint, and she's coming after you.
Okay.
All right.
Duly noted.
Any final message you'd like to have for the honorees today?
Well, congratulations once again. What a special honor for each of you, and I apologize that we can't be in person today so that we can appropriately honor you, or at least that I can be a part of that. But just keep doing what you're doing and doing it the right way, and continue to have the success that you're enjoying. And I wish everybody nothing but the best.
But this is progress today.
This is progress, Ollie, for sure.
All right.